Welcome to the Audi SQ5. This is a performance derivative of the Q5. So pretty much the same car, except it's faster. Now, I've already reviewed the normal Q5, so I'm not going to go into all the details. I'm just going to show you what on this car makes it different from like the regular Q5. Let's start around the front here. You'll notice that the grille on the SQ5 is quite different from the grille on the normal Q5, and rightfully so. It wants to look more sporty. So there's a lot more chrome going on here. It's got these sort of edges over here. You've obviously got the SQ5 badging. You've got the chrome around these sort of lights over here, the chrome splittery over going around over there. Over here, the light clusters are largely the same, so that kind of remains unchanged. The SQ5 also has these sort of silver mirror housings, and they're plastic. They're not actually metal. All right, down here, we've got 21-inch alloy wheels. They're the double V-spoke. These are like a 30 grand optional extra. The red brake calipers obviously unique to S and RS models on the Audi. So the side profile of the SQ5 is pretty decent too. As I mentioned earlier, there is a sportback version, which I personally think looks better. This one's more practical, though there is a bit more boot space. On the back of the SQ5, there are a couple of sort of SQ5 bits as well. Obviously, you have the badge over there, which is only on the SQ5. Kind of got this plastic skid plate down here. You also have a couple of, unfortunately, I have to say it, you have a couple of fake bits. These exhaust pipes are probably the best fake exhaust pipes that I've ever seen. They kind of look like they have an exhaust on the inside, but there's actually nothing going on in there. The actual exhaust pipes are on this side and that side, but they kind of sit underneath here and they face down. In addition to that, there's a little bit over here which looks like it's an air intake, but again, it isn't. So on the inside of the car, there are a couple of S bits. Not a whole lot, but there are a few. You have S embossed on the seats over here. You have S embossed on the steering wheel. You have a little S logo below the gear lever. Beyond that, though, there's not much else inside the cabin here that makes it more S than a regular Q5. And that's about all that makes the SQ5 different from the Q5. The big difference, of course, lives in the driving. And so we're going to hit the road and go driving the SQ5. Right, driving the Audi SQ5. So as I've said, this is not that different from a Q5 in terms of body shape. There's a couple of bits on the outside. What's really cracking here is this engine. It's a 3-liter V6, produces 260 kilowatts, 500 Newton meters out of a petrol engine, so TFSI. Got it in dynamic mode at the moment, so it's really good. It makes such a good noise though. Like, that's the thing that gets me about this SQ5 is that it just sounds so ridiculously good all the time. It's the kind of car you can drive on a daily basis and just really enjoy the sound of this engine. I've driven in dynamic a lot, but what I ended up doing just to save some fuel was pop it into individual mode. And in individual mode, you can kind of set it up. You can set the steering as you want. So I've got light, comfortable steering, balanced drive, but I keep the engine sound on. It just sounds so good. So it's not as loud as RS models are, but it's just got such a nice sort of bassy sound that it rumbles along all the time. So even if you have a little bit of music on, you can kind of hear that engine rumble. Let's talk about the steering for a second as well. It's typical Audi, very dynamic, very sharp. Get past these guys, thank you. Very dynamic, very sharp, you know exactly where you are on the road. Brakes have a good bite to them. Gear changes are typical Tiptronic or S-tronic gearbox. It's like that double clutch that they make is just so good. This car, despite being an SUV, just handles phenomenally well. And it's not as big as like the SQ8, which I drove last year. This feels smaller. The SQ5 is like a nice size SUV to be throwing around corners like this. Just absolutely goes beautifully. So I've always thought the Q5 is a little bit underrated. It's like one of those not terribly exciting type cars. It's not like the RS6 that looks flamboyant and kind of looks like it wants to kill you and grab you by the balls and drag you outside. This just kind of looks quite subdued, but it's such a well-balanced car. It's just incredibly good to drive. Just so quick.